Have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Interest rates are higher. I know people don't like that, but you should be welcoming the stronger economy.
And maybe a deal has a point about the machinery of capitalism being oiled with the blood of the workers.
The United States is a country that has always paid all of its bills.
Lannister always pays his debts.
Don't let the bastards get you.
Hello and welcome to Comedian versus Economist. My name's Adam, and as always, we're joined by my little older brother and real-life economist, Thomas. Hey, Thomas, how you going?
G'day, Adam. How you going?
Thomas, coming up to tax time. People might be seeking recommendations for an accountant. Well, good news. You can tell them Thomas from CVE is an accountant sort of person, so you should definitely listen to CVE. I'd let you do my tax if you wanted to, but no, a bit of a shorter one today. Thomas is actually going away, so we're recording a bit of a bonus episode to drop while he's away. As always, we're looking at charts. If you want to follow along, you'll find them on Facebook and Instagram at CVE Podcast, or on this YouTube video of us. Big show to get through though. Got some new data that suggests that GDP is trending, which is good news for the show. A few more listeners maybe. And an increasing percentage of Australians are obese. Have we already reached critical mass? And there's less movies being filmed in Hollywood. Is there any truth to reports it's because it's a shithole? And experts are more worried AI is misleading people than they are worried about job losses. I asked ChatGPT and it reassured me there would be heaps of job losses. But Thomas, we're going to first start by looking at New Zealand, where house prices are tumbling quicker than a ring into Mount Doom. What's going on in New Zealand?
Yeah, house prices are still falling, which is interesting. Yeah, so house prices are down. They had a big run up through COVID and then a correction. Yeah, it's probably like they're down about 10% nationally. Wellington's down about 20%.
Right.
Yeah, and in real terms, so adjusting for inflation, that's nominal prices, down about 10 to 20%. In real terms, they've totally unwound the COVID boom and they're back where they were pre-COVID.
New Zealand was a bit of a canary in the coal mine for interest rates for Australia. Is this foreboding for the Australian property market?
Yeah, it's interesting why house prices are still falling or like flatlining, because the RBNZ has already unloaded 200 basis points of cuts so far. They ran up a little higher than us when they were raising rates, but still 200 basis points, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And normally that's enough to see house prices lift pretty strongly. And with those reduced interest rates, you've got lower mortgage repayments, which has brought affordability, so mortgage repayments relative to income. That's down from around 50% of household income. Mortgage payments were about 50% of household income at their peak. They're now down to just over 35%. And back to sort of historic norms. So affordability's there, interest rates are lower. It's kind of interesting that the house prices aren't lifting. Like if you saw that dynamic in Australia with 200 basis points of cuts, affordability back to long run norms, you'd expect house prices to grow pretty strongly.
So what's happening? There's not the house quality deteriorating, where people aren't just maybe people are turning their back on home ownership as a thing and kind of saying, well, actually I'm kind of happy renting. What's the rental market doing?
Yeah, good question. Don't know. Don't have any charts on that. Yeah. Hey, another good question. Doing a little ding.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's driving it. It's interesting. It's a question. I wonder if what population's doing. So in Australia we've had sort of quite strong immigration post COVID. Maybe New Zealand hasn't had such strong immigration, so that's taken some of the pressure out of the housing market. I think the economy's not doing great, but then neither is Australia's really. Like we're sort of just plugging along. And I think New Zealand's much the same. So I don't think there's a big difference there. There's a lot more houses on the market, which goes hand in hand. So it's more than doubled in the past 4 years. So it's like 15,000 homes on the market in April 21. That's now 36,000. There's a lot of stock on the market, which means it's very much a buyer's market.
Right.
The thing that caught my eye is, so this is from realestate.co.nz. I think it's like our RIA. Listing prices down 3% just in the month of April.
Oh, right.
That's massive. Like normally you think about like in Australia, house prices go like 0.2 to 0.6% a month. That's a monthly range. 3% in a single month is like, whoa.
So what do they do? What does the New Zealand government do, or the RBNZ? What do they? I mean, they cut rates. They just keep cutting until things pick up.
No, I mean the RBNZ won't care, like technically, because they're an inflation targeting central bank. So house prices aren't their problem.
Okay.
So they're like, well, okay, that's not their concern.
It's so cold, man. The RBNZ.
Yeah,
it's not our problem. So deal with it. Yeah. But aren't you in charge of money and interest rates and stuff? Yep, sure are. Can you help? Nope. Sorry.
The government might also say like, well, houses are becoming more affordable, and that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's worth remembering that higher house prices aren't always a good thing, particularly if you don't own them.
I would think almost exclusively if you don't own them. If you do own them, lower house prices is not a great thing. What do they do? Anything? I just got to...
I don't know.
I feel like we land here a lot with economics. What do we do? Well, we don't know. We just got to see what happens still for a bit longer.
I mean, again, it's like if it's a problem, it's not a problem for everyone. Like if you're big property investor and you own a huge portfolio, this is a problem because your portfolio is devaluing. That's a problem for you. But if you're a first home buyer looking to get into the market, you're pretty happy about this story.
Yeah.
You want prices to go lower.
Assuming you didn't buy when you saw a 2% drop earlier in January.
Yeah.
This is my chance, and
it's also the case if you only own one property, then it's kind of neither here nor there, depending as long as you're not getting into negative equity.
Yeah.
Because if you have to sell, you're buying into the same market, so it's kind of neither here nor there. So it's only kind of a real problem for property investors. So should the government come to the rescue of property investors?
Normally, yes.
Normally, yes. Normally, they would. That's right. But should they?
Well, no, but that's never come into it before. We've never had that conversation. This is a new direction you're taking us into. All right, Thomas, got a chart here looking at manufacturing costs in the US. What's going on?
Yeah, this is an interesting chart, I thought. So Goldman Sachs estimate manufacturing production costs by country and then index that to the US. So comparing it to the US. US is 100. Yeah, if you're 100, you've got the same manufacturing production costs as the US. Not many, maybe like 5 or 6 countries have higher production costs than the US. Australia is one of them. Production costs in Australia are 25% higher than in America.
Yeah.
For most of the world, it's less than America and substantially less than America. So if you get down to Philippines, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Malaysia, Vietnam, you're looking at about 25%.
Your classic make and stuff countries.
Yeah. So like they can make stuff at 25% of the cost of making stuff in America.
Yeah,
and the point that Goldman Sachs is trying to make, that even like if the point of tariffs is you're trying to reshore manufacturing industry, and you're slapping a 10% tariff on countries, or even 25% on Vietnam or something like that.
Yeah.
Manufacturers there are going to be like, well, it's still 25% of the cost. Add another 25%, maybe it's 50%. It's still 50% cheaper to make it offshore.
Right.
So the job of reshoring manufacturing industry is pretty huge given the cost differentials.
Yeah, and presumably too, the volume, like current volume, would far skew towards the lower end of the manufacturing cost chart. So, we're looking at this chart and the countries down there, Malaysia, Vietnam, etc., where it's cheapest to make stuff, presumably also have the highest volume of stuff that's currently shipping and being made for other countries.
Yeah.
So to that end, then the tariffs are even less effective, because if your tariffs are on Italy, well, it doesn't really matter because you're not getting that much stuff from Italy. Right. So what is this? So this will presumably throw a spanner in Trump's plans.
I expect Trump will admit that he was wrong. And no.
I saw that there was an article I saw today that said a journalist asked him about the TACO.
Right.
That some people are referring to Trump, and it stands for Trump always chickens out. And Trump got really upset about being asked about being called a TACO. I mean, there's probably other similarities between him and tacos as well. But yeah, I think maybe people are starting to see through him. And he's backpedaling on all sorts of tariffs all over the place, isn't he?
It creates expenses for local consumers and local businesses who rely on inputs for their overseas inputs.
Yeah.
So it does create headaches. And in terms of like bringing industry back, like the tariffs have to do a lot of heavy lifting. If you've got to bring stuff back from Vietnam where it's 25% of the manufacturing costs, you've got to shift a firm's decision-making cost-benefit analysis. Tariffs have to be huge.
Yeah.
So,
all right. And you got a chart here on his approval rating as a result.
Yeah. So I just thought this was interesting. So they talked about like young people pivoted towards Trump in the most recent election, and through January this year, the net approval ratings for Trump were about 0%. For all adults and for those under 30. The net approval rating has gone down, which you normally expect with the president as it rolls on, as the term rolls on. For all adults, it's down to negative 10% approval rating. But for those under 30, it's negative 20%.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, people under 30 have gone off Trump in a big way, much more than the rest of the population. So they turned towards Trump in the election, and then they were like, that was a bit of a mistake.
It's interesting that you say that it always happens once like a president comes into power and starts doing
stuff.
Doing stuff. Everyone's just like, this does not match what I was advertised on the box. And I guess younger people maybe are just more, I don't know, are they more impacted by his changes?
I think they probably are, maybe a bit more fickle. Maybe just understanding what it all means.
More tuned into the zeitgeist. All right, Thomas, you got a chart here on GDP returning to trend?
Yeah, so I thought this was interesting. So like a lot of the question about why the US stock market has been so dominant relative to the rest of the world since COVID and why it's done so well. But I thought this was interesting because this looks at GDP relative to the pre-COVID trend. And so it looks at where GDP would be now if the pre-COVID trend had continued.
Yeah.
And for most of the world, we're still below trend. So Euro area is 3 percentage points below trend. China's 7.4 percentage points, quite substantial. Emerging markets are 8 percentage points. So pretty substantial gap that's still there in where GDP's at. But in America, they're up 4%. And that's kind of the only region in the world that's up. So the American economy has done pretty well post-COVID, particularly relative to the rest of the world.
Why have they done so much better than the rest of us or the rest of the world?
They spent a lot of money. They went pretty hard. Yeah, the Biden administration just threw a lot of money at a lot of things, Inflation Reduction Act and all of that. So I think that juiced the GDP stats.
Right. Does that give like someone like Trump some buffer to do some things to kind of go like this is like it's a healthy economy presumably, is it? If GDP's kind of starts outpacing the trend, then you start going, well, we're in good shape. Can he kind of take some damage to do what he wants?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, the economy is where it's at. Yeah, but so far, it's pretty robust and unemployment's still low, inflation's in the target. There's definitely buffers on all sides that Trump can work with. Things could be a lot worse in a few different directions.
It's a perfect environment. That's the kind of, if I was ever going to be president of the United States, that's exactly the environment I want to come into. Yeah. It's like, welcome Adam to the Oval Office. Look, basically things are really good across the board. Yeah, you can just do whatever you want and we should be okay. Like even if you stuff it up royally, don't worry. Yeah. All right, let's take a break here, grab a word from this week's sponsor. After the break, we're going to be looking at obesity and Hollywood as well as some AI worries. Back with more right after this. Welcome back. You're on Comedian versus Economist. Thomas, obesity rates in OECD countries are on the rise.
Yeah.
Are they? Or have you just got some data on it?
I've just got some data on the rates, percent of adults who are obese.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a big concern. I think it probably, I don't know if Ozempic and things have stopped the rise, but previously, it was going up year after year. But I just thought it was interesting. America's 40%, so notoriously overweight. I thought it was, so that's pretty alarming, almost half the population. Mexico, I thought was interesting, that's 36%. They're number 2, so which I mean there. But the thing that sort of jumped out at me, New Zealand, 32.2%, coming in number 4, and then Australia, number 5 at 30.4%.
Yeah.
That's a little worrying for us, I think.
I mean, worry about it individually, but
Yeah.
are we worried? I mean, I guess obviously there's flow-on effects from, into healthcare and everything, so we want to be healthier.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about it.
You're not worried about it? No. You take a selfish view of it. You're fine.
Well, I'm not worried about the obesity of everyone else. Like, I guess is that wrong to be?
No. I mean, I think a third of the population is obese. That's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of comorbidities around obesity. So it does put pressure on the health system.
Yeah.
So you want to bring that down. But
I think I'm just feeling good because I've finally, for the first time in like 20 years, if I look at the BMI scale, which I always thought was a bit iffy, I'm finally just in overweight. Which, like, I could do like 1 more kilo off and I'll slip into healthy, like the healthy weight range, which has not always been true for me. Like I was up over 100 kilos at one point. So
hang on, you say you're back in the healthy range for the first time?
Almost. I'm technically just overweight.
Wow. Okay. Wow,
So
okay. Yeah, that's a bit. Yeah. I mean, you're a bit tubby, but I don't know what to call you. Yeah.
Muscle weighs a lot, Thomas. It's all muscle. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I mean, what do we do with this data? Anything?
No.
I've done a lot around gambling advertising, as you know, through the Track My Brown stuff. And one of the questions I get through that is, what are you doing about junk food? And I'm like, look, bro, I'm just one man. I can't fix all the things. It's been really hard doing anything about gambling ads. Yeah, I mean, junk food advertising is still pretty rife. If we do want to treat it seriously and treat it as a serious problem like gambling or like alcohol, then the rise of junk food, and because it just seems like we just get one replaced by another. Like we talked about McDonald's stores kind of closing, or the growth of McDonald's stores was slowing. But then you look at something like GYG or Guzman's, like they're popping up all over the place now. So I think the rise of fast food, and maybe we could, if anything, maybe we just do something to tackle junk food advertising. But
I think it also talks to the size of the Ozempic market in Australia.
Yeah,
big market.
All right. Track My Burger coming soon. All right, Thomas, Hollywood is a ghost town.
Yeah.
Not quite, but they've stopped making as many movies there.
Yeah. So Hollywood, we've got a chart here. Hollywood is a lot less busy than it used to be. So this is the total number of TV and film shoot days in Los Angeles. Yeah, so it was over about 11,000 back in the peak of quarter one in 2025.
Yeah.
2021. And it's now down 50%. Kind of a sharp drop off.
Is this just due to the rise of mobile phone cameras now? People are like, we can literally record anywhere. The quality is amazing.
Yeah.
I presume that's what it is, right? Like the cost of like filming and remote locations. And everyone wants to film every movie now, it seems, in a remote location. So shot on site in the Madagascar.
Sure. But I think a lot of movies, and particularly like Hollywood, is a lot of green screen stuff. Like Marvel was just like entirely green screen, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, which you need a studio for, which
could be anywhere. Yeah, you kind of just, you don't really need anything anymore. You just need like a shed with just green walls in it, and you can make a Hollywood film. Not surprising. I mean, it's still well up on, what's that, 2021? 2020.
Yeah, that was the pandemic.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But I think wasn't there a writer's strike as well at one point where it's kind of halted a lot of movie production?
I think that probably brought it down. It just hasn't bounced back. I think the writer's strike's over now, right?
But yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Yeah. But maybe only the shit writers came back. They're not writing enough good movies anyway. I don't know.
Anyway, Trump's going to fix it.
Trump will fix it. Tariffs. The tariffs on movies.
Yeah.
All right, Thomas, finally on today's show, AI experts are worried about misinformation, but not so much job losses.
Yeah, so I thought it's interesting. This compares opinions from US adults in general versus AI experts. This is our Pew Research Center again, so I don't know how you classify yourself as an AI expert, but yeah, but basically they're on the same page when it comes to AI spreading inaccurate information. AI experts are worried about that, actually more worried than the general population, which is the only category where they're more worried about the general population.
Yeah.
AI impersonating people, general population is very worried about that. 78% say that's a concern.
I mean, the general population is probably concerned about AI impersonating AI experts, whereas the experts... there was enough AI experts who were pretending to be experts that brought that number back down a bit. Just some deep fake AI expert responding to the Pew Institute survey.
But the big discrepancy, which I find interesting, is so 6% of the general population worries about job losses.
Yeah.
Only 25% of AI experts are worried about job losses.
That's because they're AI experts.
Yeah.
They're literally setting themselves up for a career in AI.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Who is it? I'm gonna add this Pew Institute to my watch list of dodgy surveys.
Yeah, but it doesn't say like they might not. Yeah, they might be thinking, there's going to be big job losses, but I'm not worried about it.
I'm not worried about it. Yeah,
I'm okay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not saying that there won't be job losses, right? It's just saying the AI experts worried about it.
Yeah,
I think there has to be job losses. I think the question is, will there be a lot of job creation that comes out of it?
Yeah.
I think that's the other side of that coin.
Yeah, I think that's right. I tend to share the general population's concerns there.
Right.
I reckon it's just moving so fast that
you're not keeping up. Whereas me, as an AI expert, I'm not worried at all.
You're not worried at all.
No, I think I was talking to a friend about this the other day. I think there's lots of things to be worried about a little bit that we haven't even hit yet with AI. The cost of it, and its own ability to kind of, like, you pay for cycles, right? If you're an AI, whatever, you're a customer, they need to pay for the cycles that AI uses of a computer, right? Or whatever, GPU card. But the AI then is in charge of how much it uses. Like when you ask it a question, can be like, well, I'm going to give you, instead of giving you a 2-word answer, I'm going to give you a 40-word answer.
Right.
So like you're kind of going like, how do you stop the AI from just self-serving itself and going like, I'm going to generate as long an answer as possible to chew up more cycles so I can charge more.
Right.
And we haven't even seen, I don't think yet, advertising and product placement and all that stuff coming into AI yet, where you just, like, at the moment, it's all very naive and friendly and happy. You're like, hey, can you tell me how I plant this, cabbage in my back garden? And at the moment, AI is like, yeah, sure. You just got to dig a hole, get some fertilizer and whatever. We haven't yet seen buy a shovel from Bunnings, go and get some fertilizer from the garden centre on this road.
Wow. Yeah, right.
And then everyone's happy. The advertisers make money. AI took a lot longer to answer your question then.
Yeah, right.
And you've got some cabbage. It's very early days for AI. There'll be jobs in cabbage, selling cabbage seeds. All right, why don't we leave it there? Thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Tell a friend. Why not share CVE with someone you know? That would be good. Otherwise, that's it from us for this week. Until next time on Comedian versus Economist, it is bye for now.
Comedian vs. Economist is a product of Equity Mates Media. All information in this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional finance, legal, or tax advice. The hosts of Comedian vs. Economist are not financial professionals and are not aware of your personal financial circumstances. Before making any financial decisions, you should read the product disclosure statement and, if necessary, consult a licensed financial professional. Do not take financial advice from a podcast. For more information, head to the disclaimer page on the Equity Mates website, where you can find ASIC resources and find a registered financial professional near you. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media and the hosts of Comedian vs. Economist acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders